Hey everybody on YouTube. I thought I was going to do a fun video. I had just ended my day and look at this shot on my glasses. Makes me look I've got crazy eyebrows. See that? I thought it'd be a really fun video to do a video on developers because I feel like there is a kind of misconception of what developer to use when, and I just wanted to basically address what the difference between all of these things are when it comes to developers. So any hairdresser probably recognizes these things. Those of you who aren't a hairdresser and you want to know more about them, what these are is these are your oxidant. These are the things that make your hair color or your hair lightener kind of go. And they work differently in each aspect. So 10 volume, 20 volume, 30 volume, 40 volume. What these are different strengths of hydrogen peroxide. And yes, you have hydrogen peroxide probably in your bathroom. And the hydrogen peroxide you have in your bathroom is this strength. It is a 3% hydrogen peroxide or 10 volume. And they go up in percentages of 3. So 10 volume is going to be 3% hydrogen peroxide, 20 volume is going to be 6%. 30 volume is going to be 9%, and 40 volume will be 12% peroxide. Now, to explain the first way of how this affects your thing you do in the salon is it affects your hair color. So when it comes to hair color, this is going to depend on how much lift you get from your hair color. Now, when we talk about hair color in developer, the rule of thumb is generally this, and I use Wella hair color, so these are the Wella rules, and I've used a lot of hair colors in this 12 years I've done hair, and I can tell you that a lot of these things work very, very similarly. There is always, read your manufacturer's directions, but generally this is kind of the rule of thumb, and this is the rule of thumb with Wella. So when you're using your hair color, and you're using your permanent hair color that's got ammonia or MEA, monoethanolamine, fun word, generally, this is the rule of thumb. When you're using 10 volume with your permanent color, you're going to be working on the same level of hair or going darker. So say if you're a level 6, which is like a medium brown, that's probably the most common natural level here in the US. You're going to use your 10 volume if you're going to say going from your natural level 6 to another level 6 of maybe like a red or a different color brown. That would be when you use your 10 volume. In hair color world, I'm not talking about Lightner yet. If we're going for 20 volume, this is going to give you up to 1 level of lift. Again, said up to 1 level. If you've got coarse resistant hair, you might not get a level of lift. If you've got baby fine hair like mine, you might get 2 levels of lift, but generally on average textured hair, you're going to get 1 level of lift. 20 volume is also the ideal developer for when you're dealing with gray coverage. There's a video I have about that. Moving to 30 volume, we're going to get up to 2 levels of lift. Again, depending on the hair texture, that might vary. When you are working with 40 volume and you're working with hair color, you will get up to 3 levels of lift. Again, depending on the texture and the density on all that kind of stuff. So this is the general rule with hair color and developer. And now we're going to move into Lightner, which is a whole different ballpark. Now, learning that hair color and developers are affecting the amount of lightening you get. When it comes to a hair lightener, which is something that always lightens, it actually is something different. So in hair lightener world, this is like bleach, but we call it lightener because it's not actually bleach, it's not Clorox, it's not what's under your cabinet. Developer actually changes the speed of the lightener. The lightener is always going to do something. It's always going to start diffusing natural melanin in the hair, and it's going to start decolorizing. Some people call them decolorizers. But with the volume of developer or the percentage of peroxide, what will change in lightener versus hair color is in lightener, it's going to affect how quickly this works. So the downfall is when I go to salons, a lot of times stylists are impatient. It's time is money, money is time kind of thing. And what I find is a lot of hairdressers will go for the higher developers because they act quicker. The downfall of using a higher lightener, and again, this is a loose thing. When you're dealing with advanced things like balayage and things like that, these kind of rules change. But traditionally, we're doing on-scalp lightening, foil highlighting, things like that. If you go for a higher developer, what happens is you do a lot quicker work, but you also do a lot more damage. So this is where the bulk of this video is going to take place. So this is a kind of loose graph. This is how I describe it to a lot of people with this visual aid of 10 volume, 20, 30, and 40 volume, how Lightner works. So what this is this is basically how much lift you get and how much time they work. So hair lightener, at least blonde or multi-blonde powder by Wella Professionals, works for about 50 minutes, so just shy of an hour. After that, it's kind of not really doing anything effectively. If we are using our 10 volume developer with our Lightner, we're going to get a very slow and steady and consistent lift from minute 1 to minute 50. If we are using our 20 volume, this is the most common developer used when it comes to highlights and things like that. You're going to get a little bit more lift at the beginning, and it's going to slowly kind of die off as the time goes on. When you're working with 30 volume, that same thing happens. It works even faster than 20 volume, but then it all starts to die off quicker. And then finally, for 40 volume, it's going to spike very, very rapidly in the first maybe 15, 20 minutes, and the last 30 minutes of that, it's going to be really, really weak. So this is one of those things that when I see stylists going directly for 30 and 40 volume, it's just a little messy in my opinion. My hair, I'm a natural level 8, so that's, you know, out of a level 1 through 10, I'm a dirty blonde. I use Blondor and 10 volume on my hair for 20 minutes and I get my blonde. So where I think what we can improve as a professional industry is to just educate ourselves and know what this curvature is like and really assess your client's needs and your client's hair texture and your client's hair type and really pick the developer that is the best for what you're really trying to do. Now, on one other note, since I'm talking about Lightner, is this is something I find all the time when I go in salons, is in Wella, okay, Wella World, we use scales, and we use a scale to weigh our color out with our bowl, our color, our developer, XYZ. We have ratios of 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 1 to 1.5, depending on what product you're using. And I find that almost every salon I go to, they weigh their color, and it's like a hallelujah moment. But for some reason, a lot of hairstylists don't weigh their Lightner, you know, or their bleach. And it perplexes me. Really, really perplexing. And I always ask them, why don't you weigh that? They say, well, I like the consistency like this, and I like the consistency like that, and blah, 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 and it always works. The downfall is, when you're using Lightner and you're mixing it with a developer, something happens. So in Wella World, we talk about multi-blonde powder. It is a product called Blondor. It's the most common thing you use for foil highlights, you know, bleach and tones, you know, things like that. Is you have a couple options as far as your mixing ratio. And your mixing ratio goes as follows. You can do a 1-to-1 ratio, and you can do a 1-to-2 ratio. And in my opinion, honestly, if you can do both of those, you can probably do somewhere in the middle. But these are what is by the book manufacturer's directions. If you're doing an on-scalp service like my hair, I need to touch up, obviously. But if I was doing an on-scalp lightening service, I would go for 1-to-2, not 1-to-1. And if you're doing an on-scalp lightening service like mine, you will do no more than 20 volume. So 1-to-2 on scalp, 10 or 20 volume, or 15 if you want to meet in the middle. And the reasoning is this, is when you are doing this combination, you know, this is 1 part powder, 1 part developer, this is 1 part powder, 2 parts developer. The power is in the powder. Okay, so the thicker is quicker, okay? So this is gonna work quicker than this is gonna work. So even if I was to use both of these ratios on someone's head, and I used 1-to-1 on the left side of their head, 1-to-2 on the right side of their head, and I got them done the exact same time, this is gonna have quicker lift than this because this has more powder in it. So when people tell me they don't weigh their Lightner, it kind of irks me because even if you're kind of bending these rules and you're meeting someone in the middle, I just would like it if someone had a method to their madness instead of eyeballing it, because a lot of times they eyeball it to consistency and then they wonder why certain things take longer or less, and they say, well, this product doesn't work. It's like, really? There's no operator error there? So yeah, I would say even if you are not going to manufacturer's directions, at least have a method to your madness and have some sort of consistency with what you do versus just mixing it to consistency. So that's my little side note on that. But to recap, again, when we're talking of developers and color, it's going to affect how much lift we get out of the hair color. And if we're talking about developer with Lightner, we're going to be affecting the speed of how quick that lifts. I hope that makes sense. Anyways, if you guys have questions, comments, input, stuff, myth busting, if I said something wrong and you want to correct me, I applaud and I want you to. So leave them in the comments. Click subscribe. I don't know where all the things are, but you know, they're somewhere over here. And if you need your hair done, I am Angelo Traciano, patent hair studio owner, and I am located in Solis Salon Suites in Seattle, Washington. I am Studio 12, and I hope to see you on the flip side.